You're listening to the BBM Global Network with 25 years in broadcast audio and video production. Our passionate team creates content and marketing for the world of Internet Talk Radio. If you've got a passion, come join us at bbmglobalnetwork.com. The BBM Global Network. Your voice is now heard.
Welcome to Happiness Ninja Down Under with your host, Jamie Rose. Jamie will educate and empower people, organizations, and communities to help us all make better health and well-being choices. She will also engage you with expert influencers from around the world. So now, please welcome the host of Happiness Ninja Down Under, Jamie Rose.
Hi guys, this is Jamie Rose and you're tuning in to the very first episode of Happiness Ninja Down Under. I'm coming to you live from Bold Brave TV and I'm very, very excited about this first episode. I've actually flown from New York City to Northern Carolina to interview a very special guest. He'll be coming on soon. But first, I'd just like to introduce the show and myself and give you all a bit of a background on what the Happiness Ninja is and what the Happiness Ninja Down Under is all about. So my name is Jamie Rose, and if you can't tell from my accent, I'm Australian. I moved to New York to live out a dream about January 2020. So I decided to stay and I was studying for 1 year and now I am doing this show and I'm explaining to everybody what the Happiness Ninja is. So for the past 6 years, I have been dressing in a ninja costume and traveling the world doing random acts of kindness. That came about through a bit of a backstory. So I actually suffered from clinical depression for a very, very long time, from the age of 12. It was 17 years in total. And then in 2013, I got out of an emotionally abusive relationship and I discovered positive psychology through doing my psychology degree. And it was an elective unit and I had never heard of positive psychology. And all these light bulbs were going off in my brain. And I was like, why did I not get taught these kind of things from my parents? And I realized that I had basically been contributing to my own depression and keeping myself miserable. And through positive psychology, I was able to learn how to stop doing that and essentially retrain the neural pathways in my brain. Now, that might sound quite unbelievable to some people, but neuroplasticity and neuroscience is becoming very advanced and becoming more mainstream, and more people are learning about this. And it's my passion to educate people and make people aware of this so that they don't have to suffer for as long as I did, and so that they don't just think that there's something wrong with them, like that I did for a very long time as well. So throughout this series, I'm going to be introducing you to a lot of people in the health and happiness industry, including the person who I learnt all this from. She'll be a guest at some point in this as well. Now, I will take you on a little bit of a more journey and into how positive psychology helped me and how I did retrain the neural pathways in my brain, and then how that led to becoming the Happiness Ninja. So after I did the elective unit for university, I then I had the revelations. I had all these light bulb moments happening in my brain. And then I decided that I should see if there was anything else out there that I could learn about this more. And in that research, I discovered a company called the Langley Group, and they had a diploma of positive psychology and well-being. And it was the only government accredited diploma in the entire world. And it was quite new at the time. I think it was about 3 years old. And so I spent quite a bit of time saving up for that. And then it took me a year to do that program. Now, through that program, that's how I learnt to retrain the neural pathways in my brain. And that is essentially what led to becoming the happiness ninja. So there's a lot of things that a person can do to retrain the neural pathways in their brain. And random acts of kindness is one of them. So when we do a random act of kindness for no other reason than just to make somebody happy and to do a kind thing, we actually release a bunch of happy chemicals into both your own brain, the person who's doing the random act of kindness, and the person who's receiving the random acts of kindness. So when I learned about that, I literally woke up one day at 3 o'clock in the morning. I was working, fly in, fly out in prisons in Australia. And it just suddenly dawned on me. I sat up and I thought, I am going to dress in a ninja costume and I'm going to do random acts of kindness and I'm just going to spread happiness. And it was one of the things that I thought that would help me with the retraining of the neural pathways like the most, because there's multiple things you can do. But when I learned about that one and we did it in class, I really felt the difference. And so that sort of sparked that for me. I actually did ask the prisoners in the jail what they thought of it, and they were all for it. And I thought, okay, let's do this. So I got a cheap costume on eBay and I actually wore it in the prison and showed the prisoners beforehand. I said, this is what I'm going to wear today, and this is the random act of kindness that I'm going to do. And they all cheered me on, and so I went to, it was Castle Hill. So there's a place in Australia called Townsville, and it's a very large hill and it's very hot. And basically I thought, well, on a hot day, getting some water would be a really nice thing, because I'm sure many people walk up that hill and forget to bring some water with them. So I got on there with my ninja costume and I had a sign and I gave out the free water and I gave out free hugs. And then I switched locations, still in Townsville, to another area, and I did the same thing. And it actually drew quite a bit of attention. I was in two radio stations for that, and featured in one newspaper. And so that got me thinking, like, oh, this could be like a thing. So for the next 2 years, I wore myself into the ground doing these random acts of kindness. But it was amazing because I did retrain the neural pathways in my brain after doing this for about 6 months, along with other activities, which I'll get more into as the series goes on, and possibly this episode as well. But as the time went on, it was about 6 months, and then I felt confident to come off antidepressants. I was very nervous about it because I'd been on them, I think, for 2.5 years nonstop at that stage. And so when I decided to come off them, I was scared, but I had faith in this. I had faith in this modality. So I just went all in. So we're about to cut for a break. So I'm going to wrap up there. I'll come back to that, as I said, through the series. But we'll cut to break now, and then when we're back, I'll continue on and dig deeper into the Happiness Ninja.
Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Listen to John Hawkins' My Strategy, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. The opiate epidemic has reached crisis levels, and with so many families affected by addiction, opiate-related drug overdoses, and death, the time is now to have a real constructive conversation about addiction that could lead to better prevention, treatment, and recovery. Alan Charles, author and keynote speaker on drug abuse and prevention, presents The Alan Charles Show. Alan brings a message of hope, sharing his unbelievable story of surviving a 24-year addiction to cocaine and highlights from his memoir, Walking Out the Other Side, an addict's journey from loneliness to life. His raw honesty and courageous heart breaks the stigma of addiction and offers a unique perspective into the mind of an addict. Join Alan each week as he brings his listeners to a true understanding of the grip of addiction. It is only with this understanding that we can begin to heal. The Alan Charles Show, Thursdays at 9 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network.
Welcome back. This is your host, Jamie Rose, and you're listening to Happiness Ninja Down Under. We're coming to you live from Bold Brave TV. And I was just telling everybody about the Happiness Ninja and how it came to be. So I want to just touch on some more techniques other than the random acts of kindness, because I think that there's a lot of people out there who, like I used to, they think that there's something wrong with their brains and that's why they have a mental health challenge. And positive psychology is really debunking that. So is neuroscience in general. And so that's why I'm really passionate about educating people on this. Now, so we've got the random acts of kindness that you can do to boost happy chemicals. So that actually boosts dopamine, serotonin, and neuroephedrine, which are basically reward and happy brain centers. I won't go into the technical details of it, we'll bore everyone, but just know that everything you say or do or think or feel has a microcellular impact on you and on the chemicals that get produced in your brain. And they'll either produce happy chemicals or sad chemicals. So now, if we decide to focus on our emotions, they will actually only last 6 seconds. So it's a chemical burst that lasts 6 seconds only. And if we decide to dwell on it and focus on it, then that becomes more of a feeling. And then that will last longer, which then becomes a mood, which then you can be looking at depressive disorder moods and things of that nature. Now, if we change our thought processes and our actions, then that changes the chemistry that gets sent to our brain. And so essentially you can switch your brain from producing these sad chemicals, which are promoting depression, and you can turn them into happy chemicals. It sounds like too good to be true, but it is a reality. It takes a bit of time. So like I said before, I was on the antidepressants for 2.5 years, and then after 6 months, I felt like I could tell a difference after 1 week. But 6 months, I was confident, to come off them, and I just threw myself more into doing these activities because I was a bit scared that I would relapse. So other than the random acts of kindness, I'll go through some of the other things that I did. Now, gratitude is an extremely, extremely important part of changing the way that your brain functions and your ability to overcome depression. And it's a core foundation of positive psychology and the science of happiness. So things that we can do are write down 3 things that we are grateful for, or you can do more, but you want to do a minimum of 3. And other than so I know that when you're depressed, because I was for a long time, you can sometimes think that there's nothing to be grateful for. So a good way to rephrase this activity so that it suits you is there will always be 3 best things in a day. Even if it is literally you woke up and you watched your favorite TV show or you ate a sandwich, because the fact is there's millions and millions of people around the world who can't even eat a sandwich or walk to the fridge and open the fridge and pick up an apple and taste and smell the apple. Some people can't do that. They don't have access to these kinds of things. There's people living, without electricity. And the more we become mindful of that, the more we can be very appreciative of what we do have, and we can start focusing on what we do have instead of focusing on what we don't have. And then that will start to redirect the brain chemicals. So every single day for over 6 years, I have been writing down the 3 best things of the day. And I know that was a huge key, along with the random acts of kindness, that contributed to changing the way that my brain functioned and overcoming depression. Now, a lot of people have told me that sounds like a lot of work. And this is what I want to get across to people. Happiness is not something that just comes. It is something that we have to actively be doing things to achieve, because we live in a world that is full of negativity. It's full of toxins and poisons and all kinds of things. And this is plaguing our minds and our bodies, and this is affecting us on a microcellular level. So when we can swap the focus, that's when the power in this occurs. And I want people to realize that you do have to work at this, and it isn't just guaranteed, but the working at it is very worthwhile, because otherwise you're just going to stay miserable. And why does anyone want to be miserable for the rest of their lives? It doesn't make any sense. When you can put in a little bit of work, the initial work can be a little bit tough, but after 6 to 12 months or so, you're really going to see a huge difference. And then the maintenance of it is very minimal. Think of it like when you go to the gym. If you go for a week, you start to be able to pick up a heavier weight. If you then don't go to the gym for a week and you pick up that weight again, it's going to be a lot heavier because you haven't gone to the gym in a week or a month or whatever it is. And the brain works the same way. So the more that you are doing things that are creating health and happiness for your brain, then the more you're strengthening that muscle, so that later on you don't have to do it as much. Because Arnold Schwarzenegger, when he was going to the gym all the time, it didn't matter if he didn't go to the gym for a week, because he'd been going for years. It didn't affect him. But somebody who's just starting out, if they don't do it, then they're going to lose that muscle very quickly. So we'll come back to that a bit more later as well. We're going to cut to another break, and then I'm very excited. I am going to be introducing you to our guest. His name is Dr. Buttar. He has been labeled as one of the top 50 doctors in the US, and we'll be right back, and we'll be talking to him soon.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of the Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on the Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
Mike Zorich, a 3-time California state champion in Greco-Roman wrestling at 114 pounds. Mike, blind since birth, was born in Hartford, Connecticut. He was a 6-time national placer, including 2 seconds, 2 thirds, and 2 fourths. He also won the Veterans Folk-Style Wrestling twice at 152 pounds. In all these tournaments, he was the only blind competitor. Nancy Zorich, a creative spirit whose talents have taken her to the stage and into galleries and exhibitions in several states. Her father, a commercial artist who shared his instruments with his daughter and helped her fine-tune her natural abilities, influenced her decision to follow in his footsteps. Ms. Zorich has enjoyed a fruitful career doing what she loves. Listen Saturday mornings at 12 Eastern for the Nancy and Mike Show for heartwarming stories and interesting talk on the BBM Global Network.
Hi everyone, welcome back again. This is Jamie Rose, your host, and we are on Happiness Ninja Down Under, coming to you live from Bold Brave TV. And I have the very awesome Dr. Patar here. He has been called the most censored doctor in the US, if not the world. And he's also one of the best top 50 doctors in the US. I'm very, very excited to have you here. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you.
Now, I wanted to start with, what was your passion? What started your passion for the health and wellness industry, and what motivates you to keep going despite the challenges that you are facing with censorship and those things?
Well, I knew from a very early age, probably 9, I was probably 8 or 9 years old when I knew I was going to be a doctor. So
okay.
It wasn't, I don't know, I just always knew I was going to be a doctor. So as far as, I think that everything in life that presents itself with an obstacle, it's an obstacle. People can see it as an obstacle. They can see it as a mountain to climb to get to the next level. And so I've kind of always seen things that are thrown in my path that there's a purpose behind it, and maybe it's to make me sharper, faster, stronger, whatever it is. And there's an old saying, whatever doesn't kill you serves to make you stronger. So yeah. I've lived by that principle. And it actually is the most censored doctor on the planet, apparently. That's what I was told in August, so not in the U.S.
Okay.
But, it is interesting that it's primarily the U.S. because the U.S. is, as goes the U.S., so does the rest of the world. So we know that the rest of the free world follows in the wake of the United States. And unfortunately, this nonsense that we're dealing with right now from a standpoint of science and medicine and research, we've violated every aspect of virology, every aspect of infectious disease, every basic aspect of physiology. In fact, even the basic precepts of immunology are just completely being ignored by the medical profession, which is the most astounding and most saddening thing, is that we know that there was no journalistic integrity left. So journalists don't have any integrity. But I never thought that the profession of medicine had lost its integrity, and pretty much has, with the exception of the few people that have stood up and come out. I mean, just today I was reading an infectious disease, actually it's a microbiology and infectious disease journal. And in there, they were talking about the association between COVID-19 and prion disease. And what's interesting is the last paragraph of that study, which I'm going to be doing a video on, was astounding. They, even in this premier journal, they came out and they said that the vaccine is probably a bioweapon and is more than likely to release it to the public before all the experimentation has been done is extremely dangerous, and is likely that the vaccine is likely to be more dangerous than the original pathogen. This is in a medical journal that they've published it, yet the majority of the medical profession is completely ignoring it. So it's one of those things that I don't even think that was your question, but anyway, I just went ahead and answered it.
It's okay. Yeah, I just wanted to know what motivated you to keep going through the challenges, but I totally, it's relevant.
I mean, motivation is from a challenge standpoint. Actually, it's a question that's been asked to me many times. I don't really see it as a challenge. I'm doing this because I have children. I want them to have a better life. I know that if I stand by and allow this type of atrocity to be committed, you know, if I'm not so self-centered and looking at just my own children, it's going to impact the entire world. I know that, and so do the other people that are fighting for this cause. But yeah, I don't see it really as what motivates me. It's kind of like, you know, what motivates you to breathe, you know?
Yeah. You see it as a calling?
No, I mean, this is just how I am. I get this all the time. I get all these accolades and everything, and I don't really get it, because it's like, you know, if I told you, man, you know, you wear that red hair really well, or you breathe really well, what would you think? Like, I breathe. I mean, I don't know how else. I don't know any other way to being. So, you know, it is who I am, and I don't understand why everybody's not doing it. That's what I don't understand.
Yeah, I agree. I think that some people have a tougher skin than others and can just handle much more. I was telling my story before about I'd suffered from clinical depression for 17 years, and people don't understand half of the things that I do. They're like, how do you do that? I'm like, well, you just do it. Like, we have one life, one shot, and you just have to go for it. And there's no point in letting fear hold you back. Everyone feels fear. It's just whether you let it control you or not. Exactly. And it's the same with stress and challenges. If you let them control you, it will take over. But if you can separate yourself and find that deeper meaning and purpose, I think that's what stops a lot of people. They don't look at the deeper reasons, and they maybe think it's too scary to even get into, and so they put a wall up. And they just go, it's too hard. It's just easier to do what we're told and have a easy life, not a meaningful life.
Yeah, I think that's the difference between living and existing. And I think when people exist, they're no longer living. And in fact, when you look at chronic disease like cancer, for example, I think that's where growth stops, decay sets in. People think once you grow, you know, stop growing. Well, I'm going to get up to this point, I'm going to stay there. No, if you're not growing, you're decaying. Well, what is cancer? Cancer is a decaying. It's the decaying of the spirit. And I think that same thing comes down to what you're talking about with fear. There's a difference between danger and fear. And yes, danger is real. You must be aware of it. You must, you know, sidestep the danger. And it's understandable that if people are concerned about danger, completely logical. But fear is not real. Fear is it's a perception of something that potentially could occur in the future, possibly, and allowing you to dictate now your actions based upon that one possibility and not looking at all the other infinite possibilities that are out there. And when you allow a potential of a possibility that could occur to dictate how you act, you're now allowing fear to dictate your actions, and by definition, you're wrong there.
Yeah, exactly. Now, you started to talk about cancer, and so one of my things that I want to go over with you is I would like to, we're going to break soon, but when we come back, I'd like to hear about how this facility came about. I know there's an amazing story there. So if you'd be willing to share that with the audience, that would be wonderful.
Sure.
Okay, excellent. So we'll be back soon, guys. We're going to break again, and then we'll hear all about how the Centers for Advanced Medicine came to be.
Tune into It's All About You with host Dr. Martha Latz, a lively weekly broadcast on BBM Global Network, one of the most empowering shows for time-starved, overscheduled multitaskers. The professional expertise of Dr. Latz is directly available live every Thursday at 1 p.m. to answer and address concerns about relationships, life transitions of career, meeting, dating, and committed relationships. It's All About You with Dr. Latz will expand your understanding of current concerns across your relationships by broadening and expanding possible solutions in developing skills for mutually desired outcomes. Dr. Martha's expertise is as a licensed marriage and family therapist, life, transition coach, and all things to do with communication at work, home, and with friends. Check out her website at auniquetherapycenter.com. If you seek a courageous advocate prepared to champion your rights with consumer service agencies that support aging populations, Carol Ann Hamilton is the one for you. Carol Ann is an elder care coach, author, and speaker with 250,000 hours lived experience successfully supporting unculpable aging parents. As a result of a challenging journey, Carol Ann revolutionizes how stressed out caregivers restore serenity to their worlds. She also brings over 25 years of change management expertise in Fortune 500 settings to catalyze urgent transformation within the elder care industry. Carol Ann is a popular speaker at conferences across North America. She has appeared via TV, radio, and print globally. Now you can tune in weekly to get a dose of her inspiration plus down-to-earth advice to cope with even the most difficult aging parents. Listen Wednesdays at 9 a.m. Eastern on Bold Brave Media and TuneIn Radio.
Welcome back, guys. I'm your host, JB Rose, and you're on Happiness Ninja Down Under. We're coming to you from Bold Brave TV, and we're live with Dr. Buttar. Now, I was just wanting to ask Dr. Buttar about how the Centers for Advanced Medicine came to be. There's a very exciting story on the development of it, and I'll just let you tell the story.
I think you're referring to about the first time the life insurance companies contacted us, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's not how the clinics came into being. The clinics actually started in the first clinic was in 1996.
Okay.
I was still actually in the military, and I was just getting out of the military, and that's when the clinic started. I got out in the summer of 1996. I exited the military and I opened up the clinic a few months later in 1996. But the specific component that you're referring to was the first time it became evident that our treatments revolving around chronic disease, specifically around the immune system when it comes to like HIV or cancer, that was the first time it became very evident at how our success was different than the vast majority of the medical profession's success. So I had been lecturing at a conference in California, and it was a pretty big conference, and my lecture that I gave was on the relationship between IGF-1 and cancer, insulin growth factor type 1 and cancer. And it was one of those anti-aging conferences, and they're notorious for talking about hormones. And so some of the things that they were presenting were completely contrary to dealing with somebody who has cancer, who has a compromised immune system. You can't have cancer if you have an intact immune system. The only way you can have cancer is if you have a compromise of the immune system, if it's been damaged or it's been suppressed somehow. Mm-hmm. And so cancer is synonymous with a damaged or impaired immune system. And this, it must have been about a year after that lecture, I got a call at the clinic. It was in 1999, about 3 years after I'd started the clinic. And today, everybody kind of knows what's going on. We have patients now from 94 countries, but back then I was just starting the clinic, and 3 years into it, this doctor called me and he said, "Do you have are you still seeing cancer patients?" And I said, "Yeah, of course." And he says, "Do you have a protocol that you're using that's specifically for cancer? And I said, yes. I mean, our protocol generally addresses the damaged immune system. So yes, that's for cancer. It's basically no different than it would be for HIV, but specific cancer, there's certain things with the nutrient deficiency, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, we do. And he says, well, we have a patient that we want to send you, and he's from Germany, and he's got 3 weeks left to live. According to his oncologist, he has oat cell carcinoma, which is small cell carcinoma. It's a very aggressive form of lung cancer. Mm. And we're not even sure if he'll survive the trip. And but we want to send him to you, and all his expenses will be taken care of by the insurance company. And I said, insurance company? And I thought, well, first of all, this doesn't sound right. I said, you know that we don't do chemo and radiation, right? Because insurance companies only deal with chemo and radiation. Mm-hmm. And they don't do any other outside of the box treatments. And he said, no, that's why we're sending to you, because we know you do other things besides chemo and radiation. We're not interested in chemo and radiation. We're sending them to you for that reason. And I was shocked. And I said, well, this is 22 years ago, right? So I said, I'm very, very surprised. I've never actually heard about a health insurance company that's trying to take care of patients like that, because most insurance companies are trying to shirk their responsibility and not pay for the cost of treatment. And he hesitated for a second. He starts laughing. And he says, for a bright guy, you're not that bright sometimes. And I said, what do you mean? He said, I'm not talking about the insurance company that's going to pay for this. I'm not talking about it being a health insurance company. It's a life insurance company. And then he told me that this gentleman had a $32 million life insurance policy. And if he dies in 3 weeks, the insurance company has to pay out $32 million for his life benefit. And they didn't want him to die. That's why they were sending him to me. And that was the first time I had that experience. He lived for 2 years. He was a smoker, and he didn't stop smoking, but he went through 2 months of treatment. We sent him back, and he lived for another year and 10 months. So he lived for 2 years, the year and 10 months plus the 2 months of treatment. And he was already I think he was 72, 73 when he came to us. He was around 75 when he died. And the life insurance company was ecstatic, because basically at that time the interest rates were 5%. So 5% on a $32 million life insurance policy was $1.6 million every year. I kept him alive. They were saving because they could float that money just by keeping it in the bank. So they saved themselves $3.2 million over the 2 years, and they were ecstatic. They wanted to create a whole business model out of this. And I was intrigued by it, but what I didn't like was that their focus was on the money and not on the patient. And for that reason, I thanked them. But and this sent me a couple of patients, but I never entered into any type of business arrangement. But the Mango communities are actually, that's how the whole premise behind the Mango communities, the medically advanced, naturally guided optimization communities, came about because of that, and then something that happened with a company out of the Philippines that does real estate development, and they do development for communities where people retire, but they wanted me to come and give a presentation at one of the real estate symposiums selling one of these communities, and I didn't understand why. They basically wanted me to, they increased the value of the condominiums from 100,000 to 150,000, so they were going to sell their normal $100 million project for $150 million just because there was going to be a center for advanced medicine there.
Oh, wow.
And so basically putting those two things together, that's how the whole concept behind the Mango communities came about. And we were about to launch the first Mango community actually in the next 45 days or so.
Oh, wow. Where is that one going to be located?
Well, it's going to be between two locations. We're trying to decide whether it's going to be the Dominican Republic, which is through, the arrangement was made through actually a TAP member. There's a possibility they could be in North Carolina. We know that we're going to start the first one in the next 45 days, but we've got two different options. We've got probably 6 or 7 different options on a secondary level, but as far as two pieces where the real estate's been identified and the revenue, the financing is in place, there's two. One's North Carolina, one's Dominican. We haven't decided which one will be the first one.
And I'll just clarify for the audience. So the Mango community is going to have an advanced center. A center of advanced medicine in it.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So the whole concept behind that, so this company out of the Philippines, their model was that they basically create a community, and they sell 1,000 condos in a weekend. But they wanted me to come and give a lecture, and I didn't understand that at first. And so they basically tempted me. They told me that basically if I came and give a lecture at their conference, they would build a clinic there.
Okay.
And I thought that was pretty nice. They told me, they asked me how much it would cost for a clinic roughly, and I didn't know. I said $3.5 million. They said up to $5 million will cover you. Well, I came to find out later on the reason the formula for $5 million was, they said 10% of whatever the increase in profit would be from a $100 million project with 1,000 condos times 100,000, that's that's a $100 million project. They said that by having a Center for Advanced Medicine, that they could market those $100,000 condos for $150,000. So that would be $50 million more. 10% of $50 million is $5 million. So they basically had told their agent to talk to me and offer me $5 million. The agent said, Dr. Patar's not going to be motivated by money. You won't be able to buy him for $5 million. And they said, well, what will it take? And they said, you build him a clinic. And they said, yeah, do the clinic. And so that's why they came up with $5 million.
Okay, that's very, very exciting. And in 45 days, that is very soonly approaching. Yeah. But you haven't decided where yet.
Well,
it's so quick.
We're going to make the offer on one of the other properties within the next 45 days.
Wow, okay. Well, we're about to break again. And when we come back, I am going to ask Dr. B about his book that he has written here. It is a bestseller. It has been translated into many languages around the world. And it's called 9 Steps to Keep the Doctor Away. So we'll come back right away soon and we'll get stuck into that.
Dr. RC will share extraordinary resources and services that promote educational success, as well as making a difference in the lives of all social workers, as well as the lives of children, adolescents, and teens of today. She will have open discussions addressing many of the issues that we face about our youth and how being employed in the uniquely skilled profession of social work for over 18 years has taught invaluable lessons through her personal experiences. She will also provide real-life facts, examples, and personal stories that will confirm that why serving as a child advocate is extremely beneficial when addressing the needs of the whole child. Listen live to Dare to Soar, Saturdays 10 a.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network, and tune in radio as Dr. RC will provide thought-provoking information that will empower, encourage, and strengthen students, families, and communities across our nation. You can also visit her at soarwithkatie.com. If you're a person caring for someone living with dementia, then this program is for you. It's designed for families and friends coping with the challenges of caregiving. The foundation of care, Susan Kohler believes, is communication. Innovative Dementia Care with Susan Kohler provides strategies to keep the lines of communication open between you and your loved one, increase quality interactions, decrease the burden of daily care for you, the caregiver. Join Susan, 11 a.m. Eastern, on the BBM Global Network. Susan and her guests will share techniques so you can facilitate your loved one's ability to safely follow your instructions, participate in daily activities, and express daily wants and desires to learn positive solutions, creative ideas, and practical strategies that will build a healthy foundation of care.
Hi guys, this is Jamie Rose and welcome back. You're listening to Happiness Ninja Down Under. We are live on Bold Brave TV and we have the wonderful Dr. Patar here. And so we are going to talk about Dr. Patar's book, the 9 Steps to Keep the Doctor Away. Would you like to tell us how you started writing the book and anything about it you'd like to?
Well, it's still continues to. It was written 11 years ago, and it still continues to sell thousands of copies every year. So I'm pretty grateful for that. The book actually came about. I was the opening act for Nick Perricone and his wrinkle cure campaign that he had started, and I was his opening act in Europe and then also in South Africa. And it was interesting because my lecture was the opening act, and then after that the main act would come on, which would be Nick's lecture. But it ended up they had to switch it because people were leaving after my lecture, so they flipped it and had Nick going first, so that Dr. Perricone going first, and then I would go afterwards. So it was interesting, and somebody asked me in the audience when my first book was coming out, because my lecture was on the 9 steps. At that time it was 9 steps to optimum health, and Dr. Perricone said, it's coming out in 6 months. And I kind of looked at it. And so on the way back from Johannesburg, South Africa, back to the US, it was an 18-hour flight to New York to back to the U.S. And during that flight, I wrote the first chapter, and I thought, well, that's pretty easy. Just got that done, and still had spare time to watch a movie and take a nap and everything. So I'm thinking that's going to be easy. And then it took me about another year to complete the book. So, but the book came out, and it hit all the milestones, became a Wall Street Journal bestseller, became a USA Today bestseller. I think it was number 3 on Amazon. And then went on to get bestseller status in France, became a bestseller in Indonesia, became a bestseller in Korea. And
can you give us some insights into what some of the tips are?
Yeah, there are 9 steps, and if they follow them, then they keep the doctor away. That's the insight. So, yeah, there's a lot of principles in the book that are universal principles. There are a couple that are new, perhaps, but most of them are universal principles. It's not anything earth-shatteringly new. But what is different is how it's presented. And I've had people tell me that they just read the book recently, and they said it's been the most rewarding book. And I didn't even know. I think there was like 1,800 reviews on Amazon, and we had like a 4.7, 4.8 star rating. Of course, there's always those people that you can tell they've never read the book, because they're just hammering the book and they've never read it. You can tell just because they're talking about vaccine stance. And there's nothing about vaccines in the book. So, they're not, they're just attacking you because they don't know any better. So, and just for the record, when people are talking about vaccines, I'm not anti-vaccine. I've never been anti-vaccine. I'm anti-stupidity. Yeah. So when you start looking at the science and you start looking at what the vaccines are doing and how they're doing it, and you start to completely ignore the fact that the body's seroconversion, and I don't want to get into, I don't know what your audience is, so I don't want to get into all this, but seroconversion after a vaccine is supposed to create immunity. But if you're giving a newborn baby on the first day of the planet, a vaccine, when their immune system isn't even capable of seroconverting till at least minimum the first 6 months of life, leave alone, some immunologists will say till not the first year of life, it doesn't make any sense. How, you're giving a vaccine for what? The immune system can't even do anything with it. All you're going to do, and then you're giving it with immunosuppressives and adjuvants that are designed to suppress the immune system, but yet you're trying to supposedly improve the immune system. So it's just, you can't even call it bad science, because there's no science behind it. It's just chicanery. It's garbage. It's there's more validity behind voodoo medicine and casting a spell on somebody than there is behind the vaccine myth. So anyway, that's a different point. But
what would your top step be? Can you give us that one?
Well, it's hard to say top step, but one of the simple ones is the science behind exercise, and how exercise is something that everybody can do. It's one of those things that
it's free.
It's free. I've actually written prescriptions for it. I had a patient once that tell me that I don't know why you keep on talking about exercise. It's not like you get paid anymore. And I picked up my phone and I called my front desk and I said, name the patient's name. I said, I'm with David right now, and make sure that he's charged $50 for a prescription I'm writing right now for exercise. And I said, and if he doesn't pay it, do not schedule him again and don't allow him to come back into the clinic. And he started laughing, and I said, well, you can laugh right now, but when you go up there, they're going to charge you $50 for that prescription, and if you don't pay it, this is the last time I'm seeing you. And he paid for it for the next 3 months. Every month he came in for treatment, he paid for that prescription, and he said, okay, at what point are you going to stop charging me? I said, at the point that you realize.
Do some exercise.
And he said, he started exercising. He goes, at what point are you going to stop charging me? And I said, at the point that you understand that this has nothing to do with whether I get paid or not, this is what's good for you. And if you don't understand that just because something is free and doesn't cost you anything, but you put a value on it that's negligible because it's free, you're missing the point about life. Again, this is, the Creator gave us a way. If you don't use it, you're going to lose it, right? The only difference is that in the human body, and actually it's not just the human body, it's any physiological system, any live, you can do this with an animal, with a dog, with a horse. The more you use it, the better it becomes, the stronger it becomes. It doesn't get worse. Right? With a car or with a plane or with a lawnmower, the more hours you use it and the more miles you drive it, the less of the value, the more closer you get to the engine becoming corrupt. Whereas with the human body or with an animal, the more you use it, the body becomes faster, becomes stronger, it becomes more efficient, becomes better. And it's free. And so just to do it, and people ask what type of exercise, well, I talk about the exercise aspect, I talk about all those different things. And the different types of exercises have different, values to it. So you got to read the book to get the value.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, we're about to break again. Thank you for that. When we come back, we are going to continue talking about a few different things. and we will be back in one moment.
According to the American Nurses Association, there are approximately 3.5 to 4 million nurses in the United States. So where do all these nurses work? What kind of roles do they have? What kind of education and training help to prepare them for so many different settings? What kind of impact do nurses have on patient outcomes? The World Health Organization has announced that 2020 will be the Year of the Nurse, honoring the 200th birth anniversary of Florence Nightingale. An international initiative called Nursing Now is underway to raise the profile of nursing. The National Academy of Medicine has convened a committee to create the Future of Nursing 2020 to 2030 that will focus on how the nursing profession can create a culture of health, reduce health disparities, and improve the health and well-being of the U.S. population. Learn more and join Joyce Batchelor on All About Nursing, Wednesdays from 7 to 8 p.m. Central Standard Time on the BBM Global Network. Have you ever felt like no one is listening, or you're not getting the honest attention you deserve? Do you even know the kind of attention you want or need? You are not alone. Alice Aspen March is here to help. Thanks to Alice, through her epiphany and research over the word attention, there are solutions to the attention dilemma. Worldwide audiences have been enthralled and engaged for over 40 years with her visionary and pioneering observations. The kind of attention we get and give is vital to improving our lives and society. Alice and her weekly guests review game-changing insights for transforming and improving our understanding of attention, providing techniques for creating healthier and empowering behavior. Get a new perspective on a mainstream word. Tune into Why Our Attention Matters for fresh and thought-provoking conversations every Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern on boldbravemedia.com and the TuneIn Radio app.
Welcome back, guys. We are back on Happiness Ninja Down Under. I am your host, Jamie Rose. We are live on Bold Brave TV. So we've been interviewing Dr. Buttar here. We've heard about some very interesting things. He's been curing cancer and various other toxic-related conditions for, it's over 40 years now, isn't it?
25 years.
Oh, 25 years? Over 25 years. And he's got amazing results, and he's a very big hero of mine, so I'm very excited to be here with him. Now, he's told you about the book, so we definitely want you guys to go and buy this book. It's got some amazing things that's going to help you change your life and get your health back. And I also just wanted to touch on, there's some special water here, A2O water. I just want Dr. Buttar to go into some of the science behind it, because I think a lot of people don't realize the damage. Like, we're like 70–80% water, and we need water to function. And a lot of the water that we actually get in our bodies is not really that healthy for us. It's got a lot of toxins and other things in it. So Dr. B, if you could tell us how you came about finding this water, and then what's so special about it from a scientific point of view, that would be amazing.
Well, there's a lot of waters out there, and there's many good clean waters. You just got to get the right source, and there are the right devices. One of the waters that we drink a lot of is, the hydrogen-infused waters, because hydrogen has had over 960 studies that show the impact on pathology. But this water actually is different. A2O water actually has the ability to increase the partial pressure of oxygen in the tissue. That's different from oxygen saturation. So partial pressure of oxygen in the tissue is significant because certain things from a structure and function standpoint, when you can increase oxygenation inside tissue, then certain things, metabolic processes, can't exist. For example, cancer is an obligate anaerobic metabolizer, so it needs an oxygen-free environment. So if you can increase the oxygen level of the tissue in your body, then cancer can't survive. Well, this water increases the partial pressure of oxygen in the tissue, as documented within 5 minutes of ingesting it. So and what's amazing is the level that will take it up. We've done numerous patients where we've measured this, the partial pressure of oxygen, and the normal partial pressure of oxygen is about 144 to about 156 millimeters of mercury. So if you can increase that beyond that level, it's amazing. And this water has been shown to increase the partial pressure of oxygen beyond what's measurable at 165. In fact, we've measured it to up to 380 millimeters of mercury, which is unheard of.
And so is that one of your protocols for like your patients? Do you encourage them to have this water or clean water in general?
Yeah, that's actually one of the steps that I talk about in the book, the 9 steps. And so basically, if somebody's suffering from, like, say, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease or some other type of problem where they need more oxygen, this would be something that they could try. And we've seen remarkable success with it. There's many different tools that people can use, but this is a structure and functional type of thing. We don't make any kind of claims that everybody's different. Everybody has biological individuality and genetic uniqueness. So different people respond differently.
Have you found that it has been helpful for people with autism?
We have not been able to evaluate it from that standpoint. And again, autism is a heavy metal issue. It's not really an oxygen issue. So we haven't been able to substantiate better or whatever.
Okay. Yeah, I was just thinking because it's clean, that you don't have any of the toxins in it, it could possibly help flush that out potentially. It's a hard thing to measure.
Toxins are not. This isn't unique because of the toxin freeness of it, or toxicity is toxicity. Water's not going to get toxicity out, but this water's uniqueness is the partial pressure of oxygen.
Okay, so well, thank you. This has been very, very great, and we've touched on a lot of different things. So I wanted to thank you again very, very much for being here and talking to the audience. And I really hope that the audience, this has opened up some people's minds to other alternatives out there. And if you'd like to know more, you can go to Dr. B's website, advancedmedicine.com. That's with an ED, advancedmedicine.com.
Actually, the clinic website is drbutar.com.
Oh, there you go. So he has many websites. So you can look up both of those, and you can feel free to contact the clinic and get some more information as much as you need. So we're going to wrap up there for today, guys. Thank you all for tuning in, and we will be back same time next week.
This has been Happiness Ninja Down Under with your host, Jamie Rose. Tune in each week and join the conversation as Jamie highlights the true power of the human mind to create a thriving world. Right here on Jamie Rose's Happiness Ninja Down Under.
You've been listening to the BBM Global Network. The ideas, views, and opinions of this broadcast are those of the participants of the program and are not necessarily the ideas, views, and opinions of the BBM Global Network Company.